we made it.
Oh, we made it through the weekend, and we have skipped fall, apparently.
Yeah.
Because it's freaking cold outside.
I know it. I've been cold since I got out of the water at Louisville. Pretty much straight.
Yeah, it's I know it's been in the 60s some, but I mean, we've had frost, and I got up and ran this morning, and it was in the 30s.
That's pretty awesome.
I mean, fall and winter running is actually like my favorite time of year to run, just because it's not sweltering death, which is summer.
Remember, I got you hooked on that.
You did, man. You pushed me out on that ledge when I was living in Kansas City, and Kansas City really turned it for me too, just because you had no choice.
Mm-hmm. You can't wait for snow.
I love it, and it's going to take the body a couple days, maybe a week or two, to get ready to the little extra stiffness that is starting your run in the 30s. But love it. It's always a beautiful morning too. It was still dark when I hit the road this morning, but all in all, a good weekend.
Well, I was going to text you about 6, but obviously you're out running, so we couldn't have done the podcast.
Well, yeah, we couldn't have done it at 6, but I was definitely awake.
Yeah, I figured you would be, and I was too for a little while.
Yeah, it was your first wake. You're always good and ready to go after your second wake.
I know, but man, I've been lately. Like, I went to bed legitimately early enough to make 6 o'clock a first wake, or second wake almost. But I slept straight through.
What time did you go to bed?
I mean, like, I was sleeping by 11.
Man,
woke up at 6.
I was up till 9 last night.
Yeah, you're pretty good. I'm getting better. I'm inching it back. And I got up at 6, and it was weird. I was awake, pitch dark, and I was going to stay up, but I didn't trust it. I didn't trust the fact that I was awake.
On a Monday, man, you can't risk things like that.
No, it would have been a bad start to the week. So
yeah,
I just laid back down, and I said, well, if I'm still sleepy, I'll fall asleep. And sure enough, I did for another couple hours.
Listen to the body.
Yeah. I mean, why not?
Why not, man?
The body is the kingdom.
The body. That sounded like biblical.
That sounded like a Sunday podcast.
Yeah, that was like a Sunday. Our Sunday special podcast brought to you by Reverend Mike Terali. If you please open your hymnals to page 34, we will sing "Kingdom of the Body," verses 1 through 4. It's hey, welcome to the Crushing Iron Triathlon podcast. And I got to say, before we got started today, I was watching again your Crushing Iron Louisville tribute video that you posted last night in the closed group, our Crushing Iron group on Facebook, and man, it's a tearjerker. I mean, I'm not sure if you want to. I'm not sure if you want to start your Monday morning cutting onions or with sometimes I get teary-eyed when it's a little cold outside and the wind goes, so kind of got the snipples.
Maybe that's what it was.
It's more like it was more like in the run, but man, it was
You're too tough.
Tugging at that's not true. Tugging at the heartstrings, and man, you nailed it on that one.
Well, yeah, I
nailed it.
I nailed it. No, but before we went up there, obviously I will normally, if I'm not racing, bring a camera, and I will traipse about the whole course, or not the whole course, but a lot of it, and shoot a ton of video, and then I will come back and execute my editing process and put everything together. But this time I was racing, so we put a call out to all of our athletes and families of athletes that were spectating to basically use their phone and shoot video while they're out on the course of everyone that we had racing mainly. I mean, that's a good percentage of the video is people that were C26 athletes, which was awesome. And they did a great job, and they shot a bunch of phone video, and they uploaded it to me, and then I took it, and I kind of combined it into a piece that seems to work for everybody, so that's great. I mean, it's...
for phone video, I was impressed.
Yeah.
There was a lot of good work that they did, and we both know, and we knew this going in, there was no way in hell you could trust me with that camera.
No.
You would have gotten... like 45 seconds of video.
I know how to get back with it.
If I'm as inadequate and unable to crush the gram as I am, I have no business holding a camera. It's the farthest thing from anything in the forefront of my mind at the race, and I knew I would have done a poor job. So kudos to all the spectators and other athletes that we had that were visiting, and it was very, very, very well done, and really enjoyable to watch.
My unexpected Sherpa, I have to say, Matt Dickinson, he offered to carry my camera, and he's good with stuff like that, and we both decided the day before that it's probably not a good idea because it was going to be raining all day too.
Yeah.
So, and I've had problems with getting that camera wet, and that's not a good thing. But attached to that thought is I will be putting that. I mean, that video's on our Crushing Iron YouTube page, and please subscribe to that if you haven't. All winter I will be, I guess randomly, but sort of consistently putting up motivational videos and things. I've been videotaping Ironmans for about 5 or 6 years now. I have a lot of footage, and we have a lot of ideas for other types of videos that we want to do. So please subscribe to YouTube Crushing Iron page, and get that dose of maybe inspiration when you need it throughout the winter. Keep training, keep going, and also if you like the podcast and you feel you've gotten some valuable information over time, or entertainment, I use that word loosely, or you find it a good way to fall asleep, maybe you can go to patreon.com/crushingiron and you can give us a little monthly pledge. We have a couple tiers, $3.26, $13.26. Or you can go to the new tier, which is $1,000.26 a month. And I give you complete access to crash at my house anytime you're in Nashville. It's not bad.
Take it for what you will. I think you can go on to Crushing Iron C26 Yelp and get homestay reviews from some of our campers. That may or may not be the route you want to go, or if you just have disposable income and you don't like the podcast, you can feel free to donate as well. Donate us right off the air if you want.
Did you hear Elon Musk did? I don't know if you heard this,
I can't stand him.
I know, but this was a pretty clean move. That game Fortnite. Have you heard of that?
Heard of it? I have no idea what it is.
Supposedly, kids are just addicted to that thing. And
soccer video game.
Yeah, he bought it and then he deleted it. He said with the messages, I couldn't sit back and let these kids be eternal virgins. Well, you're welcome, he said.
Interesting. Yeah, I still don't like him.
I know, but that's pretty clutch move there.
Yeah, that was typical him.
That reminded me. So you can, enough money, you can buy the podcast and get it off the air.
Yeah, do whatever you want to. We'll just take it. We'll just do our podcast on Snapchat. But yeah, it's we are definitely in a few more races. People recovering from. You know what? It would be misplaced if I didn't mention and give some kudos to the operations and race management personnel at Ironman Louisville.
Yep.
I was informed very early this morning, that Ironman Louisville has reinstated their previous and gone back on their stance of DNFing athletes after the fact, and will be reinstating them to official finishers on the website.
Yeah, good for them.
So I think I'll actually read the email. I'm discussing the revised cutoffs with our operational staff. Given the fact that we were not able to effectively communicate the new cutoffs after the swim shortening on race morning, we have made the decision to reinstate your time, and you will be recognized as an official finisher. Please give us about a week to get your timing results adjusted, at which time you will no longer see a DNF next to your results. We appreciate your patience with us during this time, and we congratulate you on finishing during a very challenging day for athletes. Well done.
Good job.
A little bit late. and that's just code for we know we fucked up, and we got a bunch of emails, and people hate us, so we're going to make things right because we made a gross mistake. But good for them, because a lot of people don't want to admit that they made a mistake, and they didn't really have to. So good on you, Alexandra Cook.
Yeah, they didn't have to, but making mistakes, it's easy to admit mistakes. It's not easy. It's getting easier.
It's not. But here's the other thing is that, and I was talking about this with Allie this morning over breakfast. It was like, that's the other part that just super annoys me about the whole rolling start thing. Is that you're gonna, and I don't know what's worse, getting pulled off the course before time, or getting to go down the finisher chute and get the whole experience only to be told that you're not. Like what's worse? And they're going to continue to have this thing. They're going to let people go down the finishing chute and do in standard races with the standard distances where there aren't any miscommunications. The swim is 2.4, the bike is 112, and the marathon is there. The standard cutoff. But with the rolling starts, you're going to continue to have this. That's just another reason why I just can't stand it. It's hard for me to get behind. Anyway, we're not going to go there. We go there enough.
Come on, let's make that the whole podcast.
No, we do. I wanted to talk about off-season goals and how to prioritize your off-season today, since a lot of athletes are getting into that, and hopefully will be beneficial to many.
Yeah, the off-season. It's we're getting in. I mean,
we're in it.
We're in it for most of
90% of athletes, unless you're doing Ironman Florida, Arizona, Cozumel, any other late season race, or I've got a few athletes doing Indian Wells, which is in December, first or second week of December, and then after that we'll be taking a little mini vacay.
But let's not say off season.
Yeah, it's not.
Let's
but
just kind of keep doing our lives, but we just adjust
through the fall and winter months. People will reduce training load, reduce volume, reduce this. But this is the time of year that's marked with, what do I need to change for next year?
Yeah.
So we can more look at it in that way. And most people start with what they feel like is the obvious. Well, first off, we got Christmas coming up. We got tax refunds coming. The first inclination is what can I buy for next year? Do I need a new aero helmet? Do I need a smart trainer? Do I need a power? Do I need new race wheels? Do I need an actual triathlon bike? Do I need, fancy metabolic blood oxygen level carbon dioxide filtration carbon tests for my body?
Do they do that?
I don't know. They test for everything now. But it's where can I spend money that I need that's hopefully going to make me faster. And while I believe some of those things might complement ways to make you quote-unquote faster or have a better year, none of those should be at the top of your list on things to address for how can I accomplish more goals or reach the goals that I want to, or be more consistent or faster, however you want to call it, for the next year. Most every single goal you should have should be about clearing your plate. And what I mean by that is we talk about this a lot on many of our podcasts. The greatest predictor for performance is training availability. How available are you to train? Do you have the time? Do you make the time? Is stress low? Can you stay healthy? All those things need to be taken into account to allow yourself to train consistently. Or are you a person that struggles with motivation? Are you a person that, generally speaking, from December, January, February, March, basically does jack squat because they're basically taking that season off? The reason that you may or may not have hit your goals this year probably have nothing, well, not probably, they have nothing to do with what you own or what you need to purchase, or what Joe Blow the triathlete has and what you don't. It all comes down to the work you did or the work you didn't do. So the biggest thing I would say is look at your season and think, what were the obstacles and what were the barriers I had to completing weeks, to miss, or what attributed to me missing sessions? Was I sick? Was I overworked? Did I have too many home projects? Did I decide to do too many races? Did I have trouble staying healthy? Was my motivation low? Did I attack too many things here? I have an athlete that had a really crazy year this year, and I said, off-season goal number 1, sell both your houses. Because it was a huge stress, and it's a huge time suck. All that stuff, moving, all these things. Like, if you're planning on moving, move before the year gets started if you can. If you have a job, or you want to find a different job, try to get a different one. If you've got projects that go on through the season, it's all about prioritizing time and allowing yourself the best opportunities to succeed when it matters. It's not to be lazy and put things off. Like, I'll put my training off and all this other stuff to when the season gets around, because now you're really struggling with time. And so that's what I would encourage you to do, is look back and say, all right, well, let's see, I wasn't able to work out as much as I needed to because I was hurt. Okay, well, how can you manage that better? Do you need to get a massage? Do you need to go see a physio? Do you need to take better care of yourself? Like, those are the things that you need to look at before you start hopping on Slow Twitch or Triathlete Magazine's 20 best buys of 2019 for ways to buy speed or to get motivated. Because, let's be honest, that's the reason a lot of people do spend a lot of money. Hey, I know it's Christmas and we go through that whole thing, and you get tax refunds, so you have a little bit more in cash flow to spend. But more oftentimes than not, athletes spend money because they're lacking motivation. It gets them excited. When people are bored, they buy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's the society we live in. People are bored. They aren't content. They need a new fix. They need a new whatever. They just go buy something, even if they don't need it. They just need a quick little, bump, endorphin rush or whatever from buying something. That's a short term. That's a blip. That's not a trend. So what you need to do is you need to sit back, take a really hard look at why your season was the way it was, and look at yourself. And don't look at other people or other things. Look at yourself and figure out what you can do personally to make these changes. Because some of them, they're going to be difficult, but if you start addressing them now, it's going to make your life so much easier when this, quote unquote, when racing season and the busy time of racing comes around.
Yeah. I thought you were going to keep rolling there.
I needed to stop for a second.
Take a little break.
I need to take a sip of coffee.
First of all, I'd like to say that if you are going to buy anything, we're putting together a Crushing Iron hoodie order here. And those are not short-term investments. Those things pay off. Like, this morning you could have probably used it running out there. A little rocky.
When I got back, it's part of my recovery.
Oh, the recovery.
Keeps me warm.
The recovery hoodie.
Sick this time of year. We're the recovery hoodies.
So keep an eye out for that. Yeah. It is. We kind of go back to this sometimes, but it's that do something right now, because you come out of these races and it's so tempting to realize that you're in supreme shape, and then you're like, you can keep. So my thing has been, I've just been trying to swim every other day since the race. For me, that's like a huge upswing in post-race activity. Mm-hmm. And it's felt really good. Although yesterday I did go to the drive all the way down to the Y, and not only was the pool closed, the whole Y was closed. Like, all right, you're
for what?
They're redoing something.
Oh gosh.
But whatever, big deal.
But I got to say, I got to
give
give you mad props that you. This is easily the earliest you've ever done any training sessions post any race period ever.
Yeah, for sure. And doing a little yoga on the side. I'm just trying to, but like you said, man, I'm trying to clean my plate, and not only that, just work on some of the things that I always talk about that I never do, which is like, there's a couple things. I want to get stronger again. I always say that, but that's part of my mission. And the second one is, honestly, man, is with the swim. I was really liking the swim, and of course we had the shortened swim up there, which kind of bummed me out, but it's just one of those things because, like, you talk to anybody that stops swimming for about 2 or 3 months, and they're like, man, this is tough to get back.
Yep.
That's just a huge thing that I want to take out of my turn of the year equation, you know? Just be there. Even if it's 1,500, 2,000 every other day or a few days, just keep it, you know, somewhat fresh, somewhat dialed in. Because that, like, when you start training again and you're like, man, it's like that can knock you down and it can really screw your rhythm up because you get wiped out because you swam, and I just want to keep that up. You know, it doesn't have to be anything special, but as long as I can, you know, quote unquote, turn the page and maybe almost be like a year-round swimmer. Why not?
I mean, you don't need to go 3 days a week, but you want to keep it.
Mm-hmm.
Because you know how, I mean, and that's like that's the hardest thing this time of year is, you know, when you're scheduling, and especially as it's just going to get colder and colder and colder and colder and colder, that it's the hardest thing for athletes to do, I found, is to get up and go get in the cold pool, even though, like, come on, man.
I know.
If you swim at any YMCA, it's like 85 degrees. Like, it feels great. It's like a hot tub. So, but I mean, I remember back when I used to swim year round, like we would get to the pool early and we would just stand on deck for like 20 minutes. Like, right, are we going to get in? Are we going to get? But it is when time and volume is short, you need to prioritize best return on investment. You know, so, but if swimming is something that you really, really, really struggle with, and as we know, it affects your cycling and your running. Don't just spend all this time cycling and running and just totally give up on your swim only to have it suffer later in the year. But I get that right now, if you have a trainer and you have access to like a treadmill at your house, you can run from your house. The wintertime is like one of those times where you can just really, really, really reduce excess time allotted to training. You know, you don't need to drive anywhere to go on your long rides. You don't have to go to the pool 3 times a week, which for a lot of people is like an hour and 45, 2-hour trip, even if you're going to swim an hour. Mm-hmm. You know, so that's 6 hours of the week time-wise for just 3 hours of swimming. You know, and so you want to save that time too. You know, and so like right now I'm going to the pool once a week. I'll bump it up to twice a week here soon. You don't want to lose it, but you also don't want to spend a lot, you know, 6 hours of your week to get in 3 hours of swimming when some of that could be allocated to cycling and running. You don't need to give it up at all, but you still need to get it in. And the biggest thing right now, I think that a lot of athletes, I think, tend to struggle with grasping is that you can't always be gaining in all 3 all the time. Not in the way you want. Something has to give. You know, that's the complexity and the puzzle that is triathlon, is that you can't do a heavy run block and expect at the same time to just like ram up your functional threshold power to nobody's business. You can't, in the same breath, you can't say, I'm going to do a huge cycling block, but I want to maintain my running and keep it faster. Well, you just can't, because or make it incrementally faster, because if you're running a ton, then you're never going to be able to cycle as hard as you really want to and really need to get that huge jump in threshold that you're actually looking for. So everything it's always a give and take, you know, and then you have to look at, what am I good at? What am I not good at? But you don't want to lose it all. You want to, honestly, a lot of this part of the year is just, let's just keep our head up. Let's keep our fitness above water. Mm-hmm. Let's keep our head above water. We don't need to sink. We don't need to drown it. We don't need to start over. We don't want to wake up in March and need somebody to come in with one of those fancy little red long tubes and Baywatch down the road and life save us. We just need to just kind of keep our fitness above water and maybe start to make incremental gains here and there. You know, if you want to hold on to some swim fitness by going once, twice a week, do it. But go after your cycling and keep up the running, and even if it's short stuff, you know, and then every other week maybe throw in a longer-ish, quote-unquote, run. Because if you're coming off these late season, you know, halves or fulls, like, you've built a great base. And the biggest and the greatest thing that you've built for a lot of these athletes, especially athletes who've done these late season races, like it's funny because like a week later, and I'm sure there are people who did like Ironman Louisville or even like Arizona 70.3, that was yesterday, or Chattanooga, and they're like, I'm already out of shape.
Yeah.
Like you're like 8 days post, and you're like, God, where did it go?
I know.
But then you forget that like that huge day you did was actually a training day and a fitness increase and a fitness boost, and your body adapted doing it. Your body has no idea what the term or the phrase or the intention of off season or it is. It's not like your body gets done with Ironman Louisville. It's like, oh, it's off season. I'm going to shut this puppy down, and that race did nothing for me. That's not how it works.
Mm-hmm.
See, if you can take 2 weeks off and do a little bit thing, you're still going to be the fittest you've ever been. And so the main thing that you've done over these last few weeks and months is you've created an incredibly durable, hopefully durable, athletic machine. So you don't want to just lose that, because that's the running especially is the hardest to get and keep, and you will lose it. But if you want to gain it and do it healthy, you have to keep it. And so that's why you can sprinkle in, a few long runs, maybe one and definitely maybe two a month, just to kind of keep that durability. That way, when it's time to hit some speed or some strength or whatever, you have the durability still, and you're not just taking like 10 steps backwards. You don't have to take 5 forwards right now,
right?
But you don't want to just fall backwards, or it's about keeping your fitness above water,
mm-hmm.
or in the water.
Or in the water. So yeah, I mean, if you think about it, it's, a lot of people I've talked to, after some of these recent races, Ironman, it's how you feel like a few days later, and pretty good, right? Not too bad. I mean, so, you going into Ironman, I remember my first, so it was but even still, Ironman was nothing near the soreness that I felt after I, kind of fast-tracked my first half marathon back when I started running. I was limping for 2 weeks, but after Ironman, like you're saying, you built up that machine, that strength machine, and it's true. I mean, I think if people are walking around pretty good in a couple days, that's pretty good testament to what you've built. The other thing I always think about, though, is like, how they say kids can learn foreign languages real easily, or they just learn a lot of things. They're so malleable at that age.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
When you're younger, well, a lot of us weren't doing these sorts of things when we were young. We're picking them up later in life, and to me, that is the reason when we talk about frequency, even if it's short. It's sort of like I'm out on these, like on the Ironman the other day, and I'm running. I still feel like, there's some people out there that have been running a heck of a lot longer than me, endurance wise, and they just have this form. They just have this flow about them, late in a race, and it's sort of like that's what I want, and I think that the way that you get that stuff as as you get older in life, because your muscles don't, we can do it for a while and it starts to adapt, but then if you don't do it for a while, your body's like, what the hell is this you're bringing back at me? So I just think that to me is like the biggest piece of this, and it shows with swimming. If I swim 3 days a week, I really feel good. And I think with running, it's the same thing, and it's not about beating your legs up. You just have to. It's almost like your body's like, oh, this is what we do now.
That's right. Or if you like run a ton on the treadmill, then you go run outside, you look and you feel totally different.
Mm-hmm. And I can tell you that because the one thing, like, I'm not saying that I did a lot of cycling when I was younger, and then I did a lot of mountain biking. I've talked about that when I was in the 20s, and like it's how I feel, I know a lot of people can just go run a half marathon tomorrow without even training, and they're just big runners. They just, for some reason, just have that confidence or whatever it may be. That's kind of how I feel on the bike. Like, I could feel like I could throw down, like in what I did the other day with not a ton of training, but I wouldn't be able to run necessarily, but I feel that comfortable. I just feel like that's part of my DNA. Mm-hmm. So I think that's part of this whole off season is sort of not rebuilding, but just building your DNA and making it familiar with like what you're saying. I mean, what were you saying about the treadmill? You can run on that thing and you go outside.
Yeah, like if you run on the treadmill a ton and then you go outside, you're like, whoa, 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 this feels just weird. Because it's a different stride. And I got to tell you, like, and I was texting or messaging on Training Peaks back and forth with an athlete I've got who's been, like, having some issues with IT band. And she was running outside and she was doing, like, a run walk. And then she was, like, all of a sudden back to, like, no pain. And then she woke up the next day and all of a sudden it was pain again. And I was like, well, wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense. So, like, we had to troubleshoot. And I was like, okay, so what did we do that was different yesterday? You know, a lot of people just assume it's like still, like, a lot of people when especially if they don't have anybody to, like, bounce things off of, they just kind of, like, dive back in and it's hurt. And their story is like, okay, well, let's figure out what the cause was. And so we found out that it was actually her form is different on the treadmill than it is outside. Mm-hmm. And she actually ended up and she had ran on the treadmill. And so it was aggravated. And this is super common for a lot of people. They either elongate their stride on the treadmill, because people elongate the stride on the treadmill because they can cheat speed. You know, because if you run on the treadmill and you're doing anything like remotely fast or faster than you really want to think you could go, the tread and the belt moves at a specific speed regardless of your strike. But if you take long strikes, you're in the air longer, ergo less energy, so you can kind of cheat it that way. Or some athletes have a much shorter stride, but it changes everything. And she found out that she had a different stride, went back outside, no more pain. But it's just one of those things where get it and stick with it. And like you said, swimming to me is like the ultimate. Like, if I go like 2 weeks without swimming at all, my first like 400 to 600 in the water, I feel like, you know, for you Seinfeld fans, when the Elaine dancing episode, that's how I feel in the water. I feel so out of rhythm and so like herky jerky that I'm like, I hope nobody's watching me right now. It's like I can't decide between doing butterfly or backstroke, and I just look terrible. But it's a huge feel, and it's a huge feel thing as well. It's huge rhythm, and like you hear the term feel for the water, and it's just one of those things that you got to have. And that's why losing it can also take a while to get back. I mean, I think if you swam for a long period of time, you swam growing up, or you swim year round, or you have extensive time swimming, you pick it up quicker. But some people they take a few weeks off and they just get lost. Mm-hmm. And then what do they end up doing? Hating it, so they don't go back.
Right.
You know, so that's like the trap that we fall in this time of year.
Yeah. And I think that's a huge point, the hating it part, and that's why I say I'm not going there to just crush workouts and things like that. I'm just going there to get in the pool and swim 1,500, 2,000 and enjoy it and kind of do it at my pace. And, you know, that could be one day that might just be going straight through, or it might be taking some breaks or whatever the case is. But I'm really trying to approach swimming in a way that I want to love it, you know, and I don't want to create situations that make me not want to go to the pool, you know. Mm-hmm. And I think that holds for everything, you know. It's like the same thing talked about it last year probably, but I'll probably start riding my mountain bike. For one, it's a lot easier to ride when it's cold. You can bundle up and, you know, you don't have to deal with that. But, you know, I think...
And you're not going as fast.
You're not going as fast, yep. Yeah. And it's just, it's a different sort of ride. And I was thinking about this, you know, because it's still, when you were saying that treadmill thing, and then I think of that when I think of mountain bike, because you're back a little bit on the, instead of up, like that fast position on a TT bike, and which is more quad related, correct?
Yep.
And I think a mountain bike, like I always talk about when I used to mountain bike a lot, I felt like I was faster than I'd ever been in my life, running, you know, playing sports or whatever. So I wonder if it's, I always think about it in terms of like a really good cross train for running. And when you're saying that long stride, I wonder if that's maybe something that would maybe help strengthen you versus maybe increase your speed. You know what I mean?
Well, you don't, yeah, I mean, you don't want to do too, like, you can obviously overstride.
Yeah,
You really it's good to do some quote unquote, strides, like long strides, and you'll do speed work with that. But, a great thing, to do this time of year is short hill work, which is really underrated, in terms of, it's funny, and I have to go over this sometimes with athletes that I've been working with. It was, everybody wants, like, all right, I want to get faster at running. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start speed work.
Yeah.
Okay. Don't be an idiot. Or you can start your speed work and it lasts for 2 weeks. In order to do speed work that's going to last, and in order to allow your body to continue to do said speed work, your body needs to be able to handle said speed work. So what you need is a body that can. I kind of go through 3 phases: build volume / mileage / time, to make your body very resilient and durable. Once you've gotten to a pretty good increase in volume and or if you want to call it base, then move to some strength, hill work. Because the most underrated part of the hill work is you get the muscular and your ligaments and tendons, all those things will get worked hard. You'll work anaerobically. I mean, don't tell me that you can't. And honestly, for me, sometimes running up at like a slower, like running up a hill from today on I did like a longer run this morning. Going up a hill at like an 8:30 pace was huffing and puffing harder than it would have been if I was running like a 7-minute pace on flat. But the thing is, you don't get the gigantic pounding on your joints and your skeletal system that you when you're doing hills. You don't get that. You get it when you're running on flat and you're running hard. But you can do more hills and work more kind of anaerobically and increase, especially like hamstring, glute, quad, all those muscles that you really need. They need to be strong and prepared for running fast. You do those with hills. And then once you get done with the hills, well, then we can start doing a little bit of speed work. I'm still not going to make you hit the track, but you can start to run faster. Now, at least we know your body can withstand it. It can hopefully stay injury-free from it. And then guess what? Oh, you can also get back on the trainer the next day and smash out a solid session instead of being wrecked for 2 weeks. But everybody wants to jump to it's like everybody wants to jump to the answer instead of doing all the preparation, the fitness studying before they can actually get to take that test. They just want to skip it. They just want to hop in and they think that, and they wonder why they get wrecked. And you see so many people laid up in the off season, quote unquote, with running injuries.
Yeah. The other underrated part of running hills, I think, is and you touched on it with the muscles that affect, but I think it's form. You can, you really get that lift in your knees, that kind of thing going on. And that was the one thing that I tried to run hills in my Louisville training, and that's the thing, right? It's like Louisville's super flat run.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what gave out on me? My hip flexors. And I guarantee you, if I'd have been running more hills, that might have lasted a little bit longer. You know what I mean? Because it's sort of that, how much power do you have pulling up your legs kind of thing. And instead of you get into that just sliding business. And I felt like I trained pretty well on the run, but I reflect on that and think, man, I probably should have been doing more hills. I mean, even running hills for a flat race is got to be a good tactic. And it's just that, I don't know. It's that weird, I feel like I have great form because you have to sort of like lean into a hill but pull your legs up, so it's kind of working that core really well too. And instead of running, super, super long flat runs, I think you can kind of, quote unquote, cheat that a little bit by running a lot of hills, right? I mean,
it's the reason people tend to like get these weird aches and pains, or they struggle, is because your form breaks down later on in the marathon if your body isn't durable enough to withstand it.
Exactly.
And that comes with strength, and that comes with mileage. I don't really care. And that's another reason why we had this kind of lengthier discussion in our closed Crushing Iron Facebook group about people who tend to run log once a week, versus those who, they're really kind of two different camps. They're like the ones that value running really, really long once a week with probably not that many runs in between. And then there are those that value longer-ish runs, but they focus more on weekly volume. And what the average triathlete, I think, really struggles with is A, trusting it, but B, especially they haven't done it before, it's like, oh, well, all my training runs were at 8:20. I did 18 and 20 and 22 and even 24 miles at 8:20, pace. And then I got done at Ironman and I did like a 10:30. What gives?
Yeah.
Well, A, you didn't bike 1:12 beforehand, but the biggest thing is like you went into those training runs with probably somewhat fresh legs, because I can tell you right now, if you're doing that long of a run on a Saturday or Sunday, you're probably not squeezing in many accessory runs unless you're a guy doing 55 miles a week. And a lot of athletes will tell me this specifically when I start to slow them down a little bit, is it hurts to run slower. And I get that, and that's fine, and that's kind of the point, because it's not to make things hurt. It's because you need to make sure your body is durable and can withstand a pounding, because I guarantee you the long, effortless stride that you're so confident in, that you so easily can have and pull out of your bag on your training runs, is not going to be there the last 10 miles of the marathon. But your body's going to need to be durable enough to take a pounding. And you see it all the time, when I write a lot of these workouts, that's time-based. This is just time on your feet. It's just preparing your body to be resilient and handle a load that's going to look like X, Y, and Z come these two races. And you have to be ready for it, because it's not going to be the same. But when you're asked to run hard, you can handle it, because then it becomes easier.
It makes a lot of sense. And
it does, but it's
I know. Well, you still, yeah. It's like, how many times do we have to hear these sorts of things before they really sink in? And I'm as guilty as anybody. It's like you think you've kind of created sort of that similar load in the days leading up to that long run, but then you go out and you have a great long run. You're like, man, I think I could really go after this thing. And it always happens. 90 to 90% of the people, probably that second loop around mile 12 or 14, it's just not there. And then it's just a big slugfest just to finish with, intermittent, like, moments of grace.
Yeah. In this year, I think we've used this phrase before, is like, this is the time of year, end of year, beginning of 2019, where you need to train so that you can train the way that you need to train to perform the way that you want to. It doesn't all come overnight. You can't just wake up. You can't go from 5 hours or less, 6 hours a week in weekly volume, October through March, and then expect April to bump up to 14 and then figure out why it's not working and why you can't maintain any kind of stamina and endurance or strength. You can't do it. But if you gradually, like, everything builds on each other. And so, like, when you're working all these, plans and things, like, I'm just taking this off, or I'm going to prioritize this, or I'm going to do this. And it's like, remember, it's all a give and take, but it's always building on top of another. And this time of year, it is training right now so that you can train the way that you need to train, so that you can handle it, your body's prepared for it, your life is ready for it, your body is adapted to it, to withstand and go after what you really want to do. And that's one of the biggest ways you can propel yourself forward to a new, or taking yourself to a quote-unquote next level, is to approach your training cycles that way. It's preparation, and preparation, and then that way your body can withstand what it's, because that's another thing that athletes tend to struggle with, especially if they're self-coached, is sometimes either a lack of understanding or a failure to accept what it's actually going to take to be able to achieve X, Y, and Z. And it's not always, well, I have a whole nother year, so I'm going to get faster this year.
Mm-hmm.
I know it sounds like it makes sense, but it's not always that way. And a lot of people take for granted, especially, they talk about the sophomore slump in sports. I think athletes kind of always tend to expect that year two is, I'm just going to get faster and better.
Yeah.
Not if you don't come at it. Because I think your sophomore year is the hardest without question.
Oh,
because you see people struggle or even take steps back because especially if it's your first big year of doing, and when I mean big year, it's like your first big year of going after something you thought that you couldn't do, regardless of what the distance is, for your first triathlon ever, or an Olympic or 70.3 or an Ironman. You approach that, and so your motivation, your will to overcome is at an all-time high. But you also have in your back pocket this little thing called fear. I don't know if I can do it. I don't know what it's going to feel like. If I don't do all this, I don't even know if I'll be able to accomplish it. And then you do, and then you're like, oh, I got this. I can do this. I can probably take a little bit off here, take a little bit off here. I don't have to do so hard there, but I can just wait till June,
mm-hmm.
and just hammer it, and I'll be ready. Nope, it doesn't work that way, people. And it might sound fun, but it doesn't work that way.
No.
You don't have to pound the ground 365, but dear God, don't become naive and lazy to the fact that your body can and will retreat within itself, and you will digress if you don't continue to push the boundaries and to progress, not maybe as quickly as you're used to, or as during in season, but you just always have to pay attention. You just can't take it for granted.
My second Ironman is still by far my slowest. And it's exactly what you said. You kind of have you do have a fear, but you have a false sense of confidence or something. And you go into it and you're like, well, I've been through this. So kind of, you start seeing in training kind of see, I still got it kind of moments. And, they're not, 6-hour rides that you still got it. They're 3-hour rides. You're like, I still got it. Feeling good. Stop here. But the other thing with the off season, for me, it's like I just look for wins, right? And if I go out and do a run that feels good and I want to cut it short, for whatever reason, that's a win because I made it out there. It's not, you don't have to always push the limits and that sort of stuff. It's about feeling good, not getting injured, stuff like that, and recovering. And again, it's just if I get to the pool, that's enough. It's usually enough for me right now, you know, because it's easy. Well, I don't have I can take a couple days here, 3 days, then it becomes 3 days or 4 days, and all of a sudden it starts turning into a week around Christmas or Thanksgiving, and just something.
Well, you said it, and you said it's not to get injured, but this is also the time of year to injury-proof your body.
Yeah.
Not to make it less durable, because that's the other thing is once you've achieved X, you're from the neck up, you always assume you're in X shape. So when you hop back into training, you're like, I got this. My last run, it was this, and you go out and you overrun or you override and you overtrain the first week, and you're like, oh shit, dude, here I go again. And then you break down because you're running with a body. Your mind is trying to run with the body it had 3 months ago. When the reality is, it's not there anymore because you've taken 3 months off and done jack crap. Again, you don't need to be crushing 12 to 15 hours a week, but hang out with something, do something with yourself, but now's the time of year to injury proof your body with some strength training, with some more running. Like it's not the time to pick it up in the time of year where you're chasing everything. Or you're trying to get it back, because then that's when people get in a hurry. And when you're in a hurry, you cut corners. And we going back to the I use that IKEA analogy when talking about coaching or self-coaching. Cutting corners on your TV entertainment center for IKEA might work out well the first few weeks until you're watching the big game, and then the big play comes, your entertainment center just absolutely crumbles beneath you because that one screw you forgot to nail in because you made a mistake. And that's what people do. People get in a hurry, so they take shortcuts and they chase. Their mind tries to train with the body that they just don't have anymore. And that's why a lot of people end up on the shelf, and people's seasons are ruined between February and April. Every year. I see it every single year. People's seasons are, I'm not say ruined, but they are incredibly hindered, or there are major setbacks preventing from what could have been and what maybe should have been into now we just have to do the best we can with what we got. Because people ruin their years, or their seasons rather, in between February and April because of what they didn't do October through January.
Very well said.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I occasionally have a few good couple liners.
If you're looking to take it up next year, we invite you to stop by crushingiron.com and check out the coaching page. We've got prices on there, and we've got different options. We've got the personalized coaching, which is what works very well for a lot of people. There's also C26 annual membership or advocate memberships you can check out, and training plans. And you've got the Q4 quarter 4. Is that what it stands for?
Q4, yep.
Q4 training plan out there now that people are digging, and that really applies to what we've been talking about right here, correct?
Strength, consistency, lower volume. It's a very good ROI plan. You get a great return on your investment with much less time.
Mm-hmm. And how important is that? Huge.
Yeah, this time of year. Yeah, stay focused, but don't burn out. But yeah, it's a good one. If you have any specific questions about anything and everything, you can always email Mike, crushingiron@gmail.com, or you can email me directly, c26coach at gmail.com. And have a good week.
Yeah.
Have a great week, actually.
Have a great week.
Have a great week. Enjoy the sunshine. Get out. Do something with yourself. Do something with yourself, man.
Don't be a loser.
Yeah. Don't be a what? I'm probably going to edit that one out. Don't be a loser.
No. Well, sometimes we all have, different buttons that need to get pushed.
Yeah, don't be a loser. Yeah, don't be a nobody. Be a somebody.
Be a somebody.
Oh, jeez. That's like one of those weird Instagram posts people make when their life's falling apart at like 10:30 p.m. at night.
Oh, yeah.
The last thing I see is motivation. What I see is suffering.
I know, right?
Come on. That's not motivating. But yeah, have a good week. Get out there, do something, and enjoy yourself. Enjoy yourself on the weekends. If you got a mountain bike, get on it. And get out and enjoy yourself. We're not going to have this weather long. But get out, enjoy yourself. detach yourself from numbers, or go out and take a run. Don't even take your watch with you, or just time your clock on your phone or something, or just run without a pace and enjoy yourself and get back to kind of grounding yourself mentally and emotionally too from that. What is a really hard grind of the season with daily expectations that people put on themselves, and just go out and enjoy yourself, have fun, and get back to loving it for just the sake of loving it.
Mm-hmm. And take care of the little things. We've trained hard. There's stuff probably around the house, and I realize that even though now that I am a 6-time Ironman finisher, I still got to mow the lawn.
Yeah, you do.
Or it just starts getting in your head.
That's right. That's right. And don't be a loser.
And there's the title of the podcast.
There's the title of the podcast. No, we appreciate you listening. This is Crushing Iron Triathlon Podcast, episode 209.
I think so.
And we'll catch you again on Thursday.
Well, that sounds good, Coach.
All right, man. I'll talk to you later.
All right.
See ya. Bye.